Hey everybody, it's Ryan from Android Coliseum, and I have in front of me here the LG G2. This is an absolutely amazing phone. I gotta say, I am quite wowed by this. And if the rumors are to be true that this is the predecessor to our next Nexus, we're in for a treat. And I said this about the Nexus 4 when I reviewed the Optimus G. Really cool device. So let's go around it and see, because I love showing this off to people so far, and I give them to hold it and play with it, and they go, oh wow, great, and then they do this. How do I turn it on? They have no idea how to turn it on until eventually they see the back button. And the problem with that is they have to look at the back button before they turn it on. So they have to do this, and then they turn it on, and so they're constantly moving around. So it takes a while to getting used to it. I have gotten quite used to it. It's kind of like when you get like a Samsung that has the buttons over here versus buttons over here. You get used to it. So that's kind of neat. One thing that's kind of cool is that there's also a notification as well as a notification LED up here as well. So that is neat. So anyways, that's a volume rocker. Up and down, obviously, our camera, which is a little bigger just because it has the optical image stabilizer and a flash. We'll have a SIM tray on this side here. We have our speakers and micro USB and headphone jack on the bottom. Otherwise, it just feels like just the screen. It feels like we're holding something very futuristic in terms of, because there's no buttons anywhere to be had on it. Very neat, very cool. Okay, so waking it up, we can power button, or we can do the cool knock-on feature, which allows us to do that. Now here's the odd thing. So if I accidentally went to switch it over, oh crud, unlock it. Oh, I went to unlock it. I have to scroll that thing back up, and then tap, and then I can unlock it. So that can be a bit of a pain. I can just knock it off there. So you gotta make sure that at whatever screen you're on, you have that little Rogers thingy there, so you can unlock it. Other than that, pretty cool. It does take a little while to get used to doing that. Turning it off only works on sort of a Samsung environment, doesn't work on anywhere else. So you do have to get used to that. Turning it on, we see LG's UI, which is very cool. They have a whole screen here just to show you all about the neat things that their phone does. And I'll make a couple videos later on talking about these separate features that are in there. So we'll take a look at that down the road. But let's get into some of the standard features. When we look at this, we see we've got the menu button, which is, I'm kind of used to having an app switcher button, but we have to hold that down to get our app switcher up. So that gets into our settings. So back into sort of the HTC One phase where you had that button there, but again, we'll have to get used to it. Scrolling down here, we see we have a lot of features in here. Like, this is very TouchWiz-like. So many features all the way up here. Quick memo, quick slide. Now, if you do that Q slide, it gets rid of those kind of features there. All right. Those are just the apps that we can sort of let hover, and I'll talk about those later on. We can actually bring up a remote. Coolest feature out there. I'll talk about that later on. But you can just scroll all the way across. There's so many things you can turn on and off that it just gets overwhelming for a lot of people. So best I can say is just ignore it. And then we have a permanent one for volume, a permanent one for brightness. I don't know why we'd want all those settings in there. So if I had Q slide on and quick remote on, I'm already way down here. Let's say I turn the remote off. If I get 2 notifications in here, I'm screwed because I can't see any more down there. It just gets really packed up really quickly. So you might want to turn that off right away. The other thing is, we notice when we turn on, again, looks very much like a Samsung's TouchWiz sort of look, with all our different sort of screens, widgets. Then you have searching for it, and so you can adjust the way you lay out. So it's very much like TouchWiz in that sense. We have basically a lot of TouchWiz apps or LG apps in here. Even when we go into system settings, you can see there's the 4 different panels like the new Samsung's version. So, I mean, it's a little easier to understand that these are all the network stuff, these are all the sound stuff, these are all the display stuff, these are all the general stuff, so it's just easier to do. And even with, like Samsung, there's a smart screen. It stays on when you're watching it. Pauses the videos when you look away. They have a bunch of those little features. They even have now a guest mode. I didn't really play around with the guest mode, but from a lock screen, if you set up a pin or a thing, you can set up if they don't enter the right code, they can go into a guest mode function. So if you want to hand over to a friend. So yeah, I mean, there's just so much into it. I mean, they even have their own LG Smart World, their own Smart World apps that control their own app updates and whatnot. So you feel somewhat of a step away from Android in the sense that I'm buying an LG product and not an Android product. And I guess that's just a branding step. That's, they're in this to really do that. So what else to really notice about this thing? One thing you're probably looking at when you see it is huge compared to, here's an old Galaxy Nexus. Way outweighs that Nexus. The screen is a gorgeous 1080p. You can see how very little bezel it has, and it just feels, like I said, you're holding just a screen, something very futuristic. So that is very cool. It's gorgeous. You'll notice in certain apps that on something that's not 1080p, how it lays things out differently when you go to use them. So 5.2 inch screen at 1080p. We have 2.26 gigahertz processor, quad core, Snapdragon 800. So I have not noticed a single bit of lag on here. And I've played some of the heavier games. Where was the one I was playing on here? The real racing game. Not a problem on here. The benchmarks I've run it through, max out, no issue there. The 3,000 milliamp hour battery, it just super amounts of time it can last on that thing. Let's see if I can pull something up to show you here. Battery. Now, so at 57%, it's expecting 11 hours. I don't know if that's hours. So far it's been 12, and I can get 10 more out of it. So, I mean, I don't have a lot using on this thing here, and this is just a review unit, so I don't really use it as my daily driver. But 22 hours it's saying, without really pushing it too hard. I can't imagine, on a regular usage, it would probably give you a full day without blinking an eye. The 13 megapixel camera, and I'll talk about the camera later on, and a 2 megapixel front, sort of round out the whole package. Excellent phone. I gotta say, I am just blown away from it. With it, this is. If I had to say some bad things about it, because the TouchWiz is one thing. I find, for example, Ingress. Using the maps, it finds me pretty quickly. If I have Google Maps, it finds me pretty quickly. If you guys want to find where I live. But it does take some time before it really locks on. That's the one thing I gotta say, it really poor about. In Ingress, it never really locks on for some reason. It does take a while before I've stopped off the bike and locks in before it finds itself. If my wife is driving and I have it on, and I'm in the passenger seat, there's just no way it'll lock in. Whereas my Nexus has no problem, keeping up. So I don't know what the issue on that, whether that's just Ingress or whether that's something in the radio. One downside to this can be also is the fact that if I turn it on and I go to use the button there, I go, I don't want my widget. I want to go back in. I want to unlock. Oh, right, because normally unlock I have to do. So I have to remember to bring that thing up from the bottom. You can also unlock, here's some cool features. Unlock with the down key, brings you into your camera. But I mean, you could go straight to your camera from your lock screen anyways. You can also, using the volume up key, go straight into the memo app. but that took way longer than it should have. Than I would have thought than if I had put, let's say, a shortcut like the notebook here, and go straight into that. 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. Anyways, it's a feature that's out there. But yeah, now the camera, I'll do some samples on it, has an optical image stabilizer. I haven't really noticed that being a real feature right now, just because most of the pictures I take are blurry if they're indoors anyways. Oops, sorry about that. The video, the video has what they call audio zoom. And again, I'm trying to find a proper setting to do that. The idea is that it's going to zoom in on one person for audio, basically narrow the mic band to one person. But anyways, this is a great little phone. It's got some hurdles that if you've never used, or let's say you've only used Nexus devices like I have, or you're going from a Samsung or going from an HTC to this LG, it's got some hurdles for you to get used to where the different settings are in here, as well as setting up your LG profile so that you can have the backup, have the, all those kinds of settings. But other than that, if you're a brand new user going into this, again, it'd be a little bit confusing if you've never had to do any of those kind of stuff. But once you have it, it's fine. It didn't take me very long before I was able to use the back button. No problem to say back button, and then use my thumb to do that. And I was quite surprised. I would have thought my fat fingers would have caused some touching, and interference, but it doesn't. Excellent phone for the 5.2-inch screen. Being that much bigger than my Nexus 4, it doesn't feel it at all. The back, although being unremovable, feels very strong and sturdy enough. I would still probably want to put a case on it if I could, but I don't know how that would interfere with this. So yeah, I'll have some other videos up on the site that'll show in depth the camera, the voice mate, the translate feature, the TV mode, quick menus, and stuff like that. But hope you guys get a chance to play with one of these. If you're at Android TO, they're going to give one away. And yeah, maybe it'll be the Nexus 5. Who knows? Thanks so much for watching.